I want to get now to Karen Hult from Virginia Tech, professor of political sciences there. Professor, you hear me okay?
I can. Good to be here. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thanks for being here. I want to talk a little bit about this first 100 days, obviously, but are there certain decisions, certain moves that you believe the president will try to push a button on very quickly? He laid out a lot in his inaugural address, some blanket statements, and they ranged everywhere from renaming the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America to ending DEI to declaring a national emergency on energy. What do you believe we will really see come to fruition? What's got hard and fast truth behind it as far as action?
Well, if there is such a hard and fast truth, one of the first things is, of course, as you're emphasizing, the need to move quickly and to take at least some more concrete actions. I've not had a chance to see yet what executive orders he has signed so far. So that, of course, is the first step for him to take, is to try to put some of the details of what some of his inaugural address spoke about into written form and then move those through as a guidance for the larger executive branch. Now, much of what he had to say wasn't necessarily yet detailed and wasn't specific enough, probably in terms of having the statutory or legal ability to put those actions in place immediately. So that's the other thing to watch very, very closely here.
What about comparisons between this administration of 47 and a President Trump two before, 45? Do you believe, because we've talked about the fact that he comes in with a lot more knowledge as to how government works and what his abilities are going to be, do you believe that that just makes him terribly more effective? Or do you think that it means he's going to be a little more bogged down in the politics of it all, the bureaucracy of it all? Is he going to be able to kind of come in, at 100 miles per hour versus the 20 it might have been the first time around?
Well, certainly that's true. Certainly he and those around him especially are far more experienced. And he's also had the time since he was president last time, coming to office this time, with a lot of people that were in his administration working hard to get things ready to go in place that he can put in order starting today. So then all of that puts them in much better stead than they were going into the 45th administration of President Trump. At the same time, it's not that the politics has changed, not so much that he is going to get bogged down into it, but it's a very different Washington, D.C. now than it was when he took office the first time. So he's going to have to grapple with all of those sorts of things. Moreover, the Congress, though, Republicans control both branches. They're very narrow margins. At the same time, the courts are probably a little bit more responsive to a Republican president now than they were during his first time in office.
So then how does his opposition, let's just generalize and say Democrats in this instance, how do they galvanize some sort of formidable wall against the president at this point? Because they too are having some sort of identity crisis. That's been well pointed out. But what can they do in their efforts to prevent the president from putting into effect a lot of his promises?
Well, the Democrats, as you note, are in somewhat weaker shape than they were the last time. The set of vocal resistance is much more tempered now than it was the first time. There also is the disarray within the Democratic Party itself. Having said that, I think we're going to continue to see what we've been seeing now. That is, there will be some Democrats that are looking for some overlaps between what Republicans want in Congress and in the general public and what the president is trying to do, and see if there is at least some low-hanging fruit, as it were, on which they can generate some kind of agreement. At the same time, there are a range of issues about which not only Democrats, but it turns out major parts of the American public feel strongly about. That is, not everyone agrees with Mr. Trump's actions or statements, as he said today, on all kinds of issues. So what the Democrats are going to have to do, and probably some Republicans too, is pay attention to constituents and some intense interests that are out there and some intense advocacy really all over the spectrum. So it's going to be continued politics as usual and a lot of pretty rigorous debate, but that's what it's supposed to be like in a representative democracy.
Yeah, you raise a great point. That is supposed to be what it's like. At the same time, get your popcorn ready because it could be an eventful one watching it. Karen Hult,
indeed.
Virginia Tech political sciences professor. Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure we'll talk again in the future about the next development. Thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate it. As we've been pointing out this afternoon, and